This is your daily briefing. You're most welcome to it. And what a discerning gang you are. We're on the cusp of 10,000 subscribers. I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much indeed. Is it Levy? Is it Conte? But beforehand, I'm sending an open letter to the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust, instructing them to come back from the brink and to repair their relation with the fans, repair their reputation, which was damaged enormously by the previous tosspots that were on the board. Plug from the Beano and Bella Emberg have left, and this is a great opportunity for them to step forward and just behave normally. Okay, so we don't need any surveys, we don't need any, all that stuffed shirt nonsense. And what I'm talking about here, and I have no commercial involvement in this operation, I didn't even know they existed until this morning, it's THFC flags. I'll put a link to their website below so you can have a look for yourselves. Do a great range of merchandise, and my suggestion, my advice is that the trust go and see them, they meet them, see the whites of their eyes, give them a lump of money and buy a load of banners and flags, and then, this is the really difficult bit, go and hand them out to people at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium who fancy waving them around. The mechanics of the whole thing can be worked out afterwards, but look, there's lots of space at the Spurs Stadium. There'll be a cupboard, a loading bay somewhere where this stuff could be put and kept and minded. And the worst case scenario is some halfwit decides that he's going to smuggle out of the ground one of these enormous banners and a stick, presumably it comes on. Well, good luck to him. What's he going to do with it? Wave it around in his garden? Just hand them out to people and then ask them to drop them off as they go out of the stadium. I think it would do us a world of good. Many of us being English, we kind of look down our noses at people trying to enjoy themselves. But I think these banners, these flags, they would add to the atmosphere. They give people something to do, and I just think they're a very positive thing. You've got a ton of money in the bank, Supporters Trust, right? Which your subscribers, your membership gave you. You don't spend it on anything apart from rail tickets and biros and bus fare. So no prevarication, and I say again, no surveys, just go out and buy them. And as far as the designs are concerned, we don't need any decision by committee. These guys have produced stuff which is great. Just go and buy it off the shelf, keep it simple. And I can't stress this enough, we don't need anything that isn't directly and solely to do with football. So no bi-curious dwarves against fracking, okay? None of that. Sexuality, gender, roadworks, spoons, I don't care what it is. Just Spurs, just football. So I'll put the link in there. I'm going to send you an open letter. I might even email you. Now those other two idiots have gone to be parasitic somewhere else and confuse and patronise people. But just get down there, give them hundreds of pounds and distribute this stuff evenly. Be loads of kids wanting to put their hands and their arms out to you and say, yeah, give us one of those, mate, cheers. And they'll give it back to you. And they're not expensive anyway. You've got tons of money. This isn't complicated. Crack on. So is it Conte or is it Levy? I would suggest that let's go through the facts, shall we? Should we go through the facts? You need, when you're looking at a manager, to have an understanding of who you have brought in. Okay? Now that may sound terribly like, wow, really? But some of you don't get it, do you? And the amount of people that you see on social media, comment section, telling you what they understand about Conte, but it appears pretty obvious to me and to many of us that you've clearly never watched his football at any of his previous employers. I mean, for example, you don't buy, the old Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. You don't go out and buy a Roadrunner and then start moaning that it's beeping all over the place. Meep, meep. Some stuff comes fitted as standard, and Conte plays Mourinho ball, for want of less sophisticated language, and this may come as a shock to you, but for those of us who watched his teams in the past, that's kind of where you go. And the way you offset that, if you like, is by buying interesting players for whom are going to execute the orders and do stuff hopefully in a dynamic and entertaining fashion. So, you need to have your exciting moments delivered. I believe you can still do that whilst paying attention to, shall we say, a bit of insurance on the tactic front. And then, of course, it's the crucial one, the killer question is we need to look at who is doing the buying. You won't be surprised to hear me say I'm sick to death with people telling me that Conte has greenlit this or Paratici has sanctioned t'other. Absolute garbage. And again, I look at you, the journalists, because people in the main, bless them, quite rightly, they look at Football London or they look at Football 365 or they look at the Telegraph, they look at whatever it is, and then they go to work, they go to the pub, they go to the coffee shop, and they say, I think Paratici is identified in you. Rubbish, okay? Absolute rubbish. Just please stop it, okay? And challenge the journalist. When a guy tweets, Conte's looking... Where did you get that from? What made you think that? What made you believe that for a moment? And especially, one thing that I think we've all got in common is that we've had Daniel Levy wrapped round us for 20 years. Most of us could score pretty highly if we had to go on Mastermind and be tested on the guy. So we know his form, we know the way he operates, and we're going back to the leopard and spots conversation. So Levy, we need to understand, he is the principal of this business, the man who signs off everything. So whilst he will take advice, he will equally take no advice. And despite whatever his managers may want or his managers may not want, he will bring in punt after punt as he sees fit. Look at Mauricio Pochettino, didn't buy anybody for over 500 days. Are you telling me that out of all of Europe's top 5 divisions, the top 5 guys, La Liga, Serie A, blah, Bundesliga, Premier, are you telling me that he was the only guy who felt he didn't need anybody? Absolute rubbish. They were clearly, I think they were at loggerheads at that point, and Levy was offering him this piece of tat and that piece of junk and another punt, and he just said, you know something, I'm fine. If you want to, in fact, save the money, don't spend it on me. Then we need to broach another subject, which is a way that many people talk about a manager's lifespan at a club. And unless you have a club with huge spending power, as well as good fortune, of course, then the size of the change that's required is frequently too big for the club to actually implement itself. And so the ultimate freshen up has to take place, and that's the manager has to go to a new club. And the reason for this is very straightforward. People need to hear the instruction from a fresh voice. You go into a schoolroom and it's the same teacher you've had for 10 terms. You're half asleep no matter what they're saying to you. And this is borne out by the activity of successful managers. This isn't something I've just dreamt up. So if we look at Conte, he was at Atalanta for a year, Siena for a year, Juve for 3 years, Chelsea for 2 years, Inter Milan for 3 years. Mourinho's the same. Porto 2 years, Chelsea 3 years, Inter 2 years. It goes on and on and on. Carlo Ancelotti, more or less identical. And the players must, in order to thrive, in order to be motivated and sparked into life, they must hear the fresh voices. And they need to be challenged by their environment. You know, long-serving players rarely improve or even manage to maintain their status, and this applies in the real world. The guy who at your company has been there forever, how often is that guy a dynamic or influential character? No, you're going to get a Harry Winks type, affable, non-threatening. That's what happens to people over time. Conte will have been at Spurs for a year come November, and so it's not unreasonable to suggest he's either halfway through his time with us or a third the way through. So if you're minded to snigger at concerns about Conte edging towards the outdoor when things don't go well, because in your head he's part of a fabulous rebuild which may take 5 years or so, with respect, you're delusional, you're dangerous, and you're part of the problem. Conte's tactics should not be a surprise to anybody. Anybody with a faint grasp of football should understand how he operates, and it is the football club's responsibility to provide the best players that it can to its coach. Keeping it fresh is as important at a football club as it is at the deli counter. A club that isn't buying the right players for its coach is sabotaging that coach. Speaking of which, how uncomfortable might it be if a side were to have bought one of Brighton's best players in the summer, but then not start that player against Brighton? Anyone know who we've got tomorrow at 5:30? That's it for now. Good luck. Keep it on.